Louis, Courtney, thank you so much for talking to me about Nona. That is such a fun short, especially because I'm a huge wrestling guy. I, I love it. Everything from the classic Mexican lucha libre all the way to the fully corporate WWE stuff and everything in between.
Yeah.
Are you guys wrestling buffs or tell me what your experience is there?
That's how Courtney and I met, right? We were both at the wrestling. No, I'm just kidding.
And
No, I love wrestling. I love wrestling. I don't watch it as much these days because I like movies a little bit more now. But when I was young, it was something I shared with my dad, my grandma, it was, and my friends. Like I watched wrestling from when I was little to basically about probably in my early 20s. So I liked it a little bit.
Yeah, and I didn't actually know that much about wrestling. I think that was kind of one of the fun things of learning the names for some of the moves and
nice.
the excitement and all of the reference videos and watching animation come to life. Yeah, I didn't know that much, but it was fun to watch it come to life.
The way I describe it usually it's my soap opera
Yeah.
because of the storylines, and things like that.
Exactly.
It's exactly what it is, and I have no shame in it because it's for entertainment purposes. So Nona, obviously, she and her late husband had shared quite the bond. I thought that was quite the moment there, especially because this is something that I share with my partner now. Like, especially bigger pay-per-view events or live events,
Yeah.
she's there with me, not necessarily because she loves it, but she knows how much I love it, and so that meant a lot to me. I want to ask you, why was this such an important story for you to tell?
Well, I think it spoke to a lot of what I was going through at the time. I feel like stories are really interesting in that they're outwardly like these self-discoveries, right? Like you tell these stories about, whatever endeavor you're going through, but it doesn't seem like it when you're telling the story. When I'm telling the story about a grandmother and a granddaughter, I'm just looking for the pure fun of a grandmother that doesn't like to bake cookies. She like loves wrestling. So that's her soap
Mhm.
opera, right? She's kind of, I don't want to say extreme, but she is kind of that tougher make where it's like, yeah, most grandmas like stories and so and novelas. My
Right.
grandma likes wrestling. That's her novella. That's how much of a badass she is, right? And I felt like, that to me was important to talk about. That was important to see as in terms of like a type of character, a different kind of lens on a community, on a human being that we can watch, right? That we can share. And that
Mhm.
was important. But as you get into developing the story and just in kind of defining and finding the character, it's amazing how much I pulled from my family, from my grandma, my aunts and stuff, just because they all kind of that similar make. So I'd be able to pull these details out that really enhanced and allowed them to be kind of become Nonaized or become Nona. And once you get that, then it's like it's becomes even more special because you have these layers of connection of what you're going through. Like it's kind of like start off as something I was going through in my career, being kind of an older cat, not quite sure where I was going to be in my career. And then I'm seeing these younger kids come up that are hungry, and I'm like, oh, how do I deal with that? But then it evolves. It tells its own story. If you let it go and try stuff, it becomes its own thing. So like the whole moment with the husband, that was crucial, and it took us a long time to find it because we needed to understand as an audience, we needed to understand that wrestling was not just wrestling. Grandma was not so into wrestling that she's going to ignore her granddaughter.
Mhm.
That's kind of a terrible character trait, really, and not really a one fun to watch either. And so we needed something to help the audience feel what Nona felt for wrestling and what that is. And it took discovery. We never knew that it was going to be her husband, but we always knew that there was an element of family with it. There was times where like maybe Nona's a wrestler, maybe her husband was a wrestler and he used to wrestle and that's why it is. But those became hard to explain. It was just more like if it's as simple as they shared something, that's enough because that means that she's stuck in the past. This is about something in the past that she's holding on to. And what comes to her door is something from the present, her granddaughter who has
Yeah.
nothing but love, joy, and the want to play with grandma. Now we have good contrast, right? Not mean contrast, not cliche like give me attention, grandma, but more like allowing things to play as they do naturally in life. Children at 3 or 4 just want to be in your space. They want to be in your world. You are their world. They have nothing but unbridled energy and curiosity. And that stuff is great because as an adult, I wish I still had that. You know what I
Yeah, yeah, but you get tired sometimes when you play with them. I know I do with my daughter.
mean?
Courtney, can you talk a little bit about the evolution of the story? I'm sure that with what Louis said that the story evolved quite a bit. Could you share maybe some of those aha moments where you can tell that, the wheels were definitely turning in a different but a brighter direction?
Yeah, yeah. I think the element of Nona's kind of husband that's passed away was one that really, like, it was kind of a picture frame that just kind of was off in the distance just to kind of represent it. It had, I want to say, 4 or 5 different kind of iterations of ways that we played with that storyline before we kind of found what that was. For a while, there was also a bigger role for kind of Renee's father. He dropped her off. He came back at the end and kind of joined in their collective, like, enjoyment of the moment. All things that kind of they worked, but it wasn't quite the right thing. So just continuing to kind of try to tweak things. And also Renee kind of like, what is the high stakes thing at the end that she does that really like tips everything and ends up making that TV fall? What is it that's so huge that it kind of finally draws Nona out of the wrestling enough that she focuses on her, and kind of being up the stairs and jumping off and being in peril. That went through a lot of iterations as well of what that moment was. And it was fun to kind of, I don't know, try different things, be inspired by different things along the way that helped all of those moments kind of get to their best potential.
And obviously they did with such an amazing short. What I love about both of you and the short is the attention to detail. And obviously we've just covered a little bit on you guys just polishing it up until it's going to shine the brightest. Part of that also, and I love that about your presentation earlier today, was your attention to detail in the scenery, in as far as what is placed where. Can you talk a little bit about why it was so important to get every pan and every microwave correctly so that Nona is at home where she should be?
Well, you know what's funny is what I found I fought a lot. I wasn't fighting like getting them to place things perfectly. I was actually fighting them wanting to place things perfectly, right?
Oh, okay.
And I would tell them all the time, animation and other, I'd be like, think of this short like a garage band. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the garage making this album that we all love and we're passionate about, but we don't have no money. So it's all of our passion and love. And so stop trying to make this like a Pixar feature. Like, let's enjoy like the rough edges. Let's make rough edges. Let's let things be askew. Let's let them not match and be perfect. We don't want an IKEA catalog. We want real life. And this character, the generation she comes from, is not to throw out stuff that isn't completely broken. So we're going to see a lot of like, different periods of, furniture and things, because like my grandma's, if it wasn't broke, they're not going to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, this still works fine. What? Just because there's only 2 colors on the TV doesn't mean it doesn't work. Look, I can still watch it. You know what I mean? And they're like, it's fine. And so we need that feeling. And that's a feeling that we got that photographs couldn't help with. Photographs for details could help, but the feeling that came from the sets artists, really. Like, I would give them some direction, try and help give them context. And then they would go pull this stuff and find it. And I was like, yeah, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. This is amazing.
They channeled their inner grandma. They thought about what their grandma would have done, how their grandma would have set things up. Yeah, it was inspiring.
Awesome. That's great. Louis and Courtney, thank you so much for your time. I really look forward to seeing you both, hopefully, on a Pixar feature with maybe a descendant of a Mexican luchador, trying to conjure up his ancestors or something like that. I think you guys would be wonderful for it.
Hey, Emmanuel, just do me a favor and just contact the executives at Pixar and just let them know that you feel this way.
I
and
do.
Then we can make that happen, okay?
I have it on video too, so it's going to help out. All right. Thank you both, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Nice to meet you too. Take care.